Hello and welcome to GPB's live exploration of the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. I'm your host, Sarah Hopkins. Now, what is a live exploration? Well, we're coming to you live from the Atlanta Symphony Hall in Atlanta, Georgia. And today we'll be exploring one of the nation's leading orchestras, thus a live exploration. During our show, our field reporter Josh Fu will be taking you behind the scenes as we learn about the science of sound and how ASO musicians prepare for a concert. You'll even get to hear live performances by the orchestra. Throughout the program, musicians and ASO staff will be available to answer your questions live. You can send us your questions by using the question box feature on gpb.org/symphony or by sending us a tweet using #SymphonyLive. We'll also be giving you some quizzes during the show, so make sure you have your devices ready to submit. That was awesome. And joining us now is Tiffany, who orchestrates the concerts for young people. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, how are
I'm
you?
so glad to have you here. So tell us a little bit about what you do here at the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra.
Okay. I am the managing producer of education concerts for the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. So the performances you hear today came from a concert we put together called Heroes of the Orchestra. And what I do is that I produce that concert by choosing the musical theme, picking the concert repertoire, hiring the guest artists, and putting together all the bells and whistles. So Heroes of the Orchestra demonstrates the bravery, character, and determination of heroes of all kinds. And that last piece you just heard helps set the stage so that the audience knows the difference between a villain and a hero. And so some of our Star Wars fans may have recognized that piece as Darth Vader's theme, the Imperial March. And it gets the audience's attention at the same time helping the audience differentiate on how we portray a musical theme for a villain versus a hero.
Absolutely. You can really hear the darkness. And why is it so important to expose students to the arts here in Atlanta?
Well, I mean, it's been proven that listening to classical music helps stimulate your cognitive and emotional abilities and helping open up your mind to think and your brain to think in different ways. And so we know that introducing students at an early age to classical music will help them establish a lifetime of music appreciation and enjoyment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for those of you unable to attend in person, that's why we're bringing the arts straight to your classroom. And we have a question from the audience. Georgia from Beaverbrook Elementary in Griffin wants to know, is there a difference between a symphony and an orchestra?
Yes. So a symphony is the musical composition, the musical work, and an orchestra is a group of musicians that play a variety of instruments that will play that composition.
Okay, that's really interesting. I didn't know that either. And we have another question, and it is, what is your favorite musical instrument?
My favorite musical instrument is actually a saxophone, which is not an orchestra instrument, but after that, I really love the oboe.
Oh, very nice. That is definitely one of those instruments you can listen to all by itself, and it's still great, but hearing them all together is the best. And so, Tiffany, what's your favorite part about working for the Atlanta Symphony?
I would say my favorite part about working here is getting to know and building relationships with all the amazing Georgia educators, as well as receiving those letters from our students telling me how much Concerts for Young People impacted them.
Absolutely. So it sounds like it's never a boring day at ASO. Thank you so much, Tiffany. All right, it looks like it's time for my favorite part of the show. It's our first quiz question, so have those devices ready. All right, the first question is, which instrument shares its name with a part of the ear? That's which instrument shares its name with a part of the ear? Is it 1, snare drum, 2, xylophone, 3, timpani, or 4, bass drum? Again, those options are 1, snare drum, 2, xylophone, 3, timpani, or 4, bass drum. Choose one of the following ways to vote. It's super simple. If you haven't already, just go to gpb.org/symphony and select your answer. Or you can use your cell phones to text 1, 2, 3, or 4 to submit your answer to the number 201-561-7140. Again, that number is 201-561-7140. All right, now it's time to check in with Josh to learn about how science and music live in perfect harmony.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh, and today we're going to be exploring the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. I'm here with Joe, and we're going to take a look at the science behind the music. And to do that, we need to understand sound. Simply put, sound is a form of energy that travels as a wave. Waves are caused by vibrations of particles and travel through a medium like solid, liquid, or gas. Sound waves are almost always invisible, but you can see what it looks like using this spring. So Joe, if you hold that side still and I apply energy from my end, you can see the energy move throughout the spring. The number of waves produced in a certain time period is called a frequency, and frequency determines pitch. So we have this device called an oscilloscope, which displays sound waves. As you can see, low pitches produce longer wavelengths, and high pitches produce shorter wavelengths.
The longer the vibrating string, the lower the pitch will be. So if I cut the string shorter with my left hand, the pitch will go up.
Where does the sound come from?
Sound comes from the F-holes, which are these spaces right here. So basically what happens is that you bow the string, and that sound is carried from the bridge, and there's a beam that goes underneath the bridge that connects it to the back of the instrument, and that vibrates the top and the back of the instrument. All of those sound waves and the air moving inside comes out of the F-holes.
So Joe, what else is important about frequencies?
Well, in music, some frequencies are given names. They're called notes. And the way those notes are organized together is how you get melody and harmony and things that make a song or a piece. And the way that those frequencies are organized is what makes things either sound good or not sound good, depending on how you put them all together.
Do you think you could demonstrate maybe two notes that sound good together and two notes that don't sound great together?
It's two notes that sound good together. Two notes that don't sound good together.
So I kind of played a little bit of cello going up through middle school and high school, and I've just always been intimidated by the bass. Would you say the bass is the hardest instrument to play?
I think it's the hardest instrument to play, but I'm sure my colleagues would all speak or think differently. I started playing bass guitar when I was 7 or 8. I started playing double bass when I was 11. And anybody who plays it for the first time, they have a really hard time just like holding the string down onto the fingerboard. Like they're big and thick and they vibrate really heavily. But the instrument is difficult to play just because of the size. Most string instruments can reach a lot farther in as far as like what pitches they can reach in one hand position, and we can only really do a half step between like one hand position. So that makes it difficult, and the resistance on the instrument, because the strings are so thick and there's so much tension on it, it's a very resistant instrument. You have to coax it into doing what you want it to do.
I'm here with Andrew, who plays one of the most unique looking and cool looking instruments in the orchestra. Andrew, how did you choose to play the bassoon?
Well, I actually started on saxophone, and I was at a band clinic, and I was seated behind a bassoonist, and I saw some keys on the back of the instrument, which you operate by your thumb, and I just thought they looked really cool. So I had no idea how it sounded, because bassoon is not a very loud instrument, but I thought it looked cool, so that's why I chose it.
That's the best reason to choose anything. It looks cool. So like you said, there's so many elements to the bassoon. Can you kind of go through like the different parts and what they do?
Sure. So there are 6 main parts of the bassoon. So we have this, which is the double reed.
Okay.
Then we have this silver pipe here called the bocal. Then we have the wing joint, and the bass joint or boot joint, the long joint, because it's long.
Because it's long, naturally, right?
And the bell.
The bell. I know that the reed is really important to make everything go. What can you tell us about the reed?
So, as I said, it's a double reed.
Okay.
Bassoon and oboes are both double-reeded instruments, and what that means is there are 2 pieces of wood that vibrate against each other, and that's where the vibration comes from that makes the sound. So if I were to blow into this,
Nice.
I get that. We call it the crow.
All right, that makes sense.
And then when I put it into the instrument, it makes a much more pleasing sound.
Yeah, That sounds great.
Yeah.
And I saw you earlier, you were dipping it in water. What was the reason for that?
Right, so the wood vibrates better when it's wet, and if I sit here and let it dry out, sometimes the note just won't start, so I have to constantly make sure it's just the right amount of wet.
Right, that's so important. So I noticed your bassoon is made out of wood, but also in the woodwind family there are flutes which are made out of metal. How does the material affect the sound?
So wood is a softer material, and it doesn't project as well as metal, where the vibrations going through that harder surface tend to project more. So flutes tend to cut through the orchestra a bit more than bassoons do.
I see. And also, does that affect kind of where you're positioned in the orchestra?
Yeah, it does. It's kind of arranged by volume, so we have the strings up at front and the brass at the back because they're the loudest, brass and percussion. And then the woodwinds get to sit in the middle. So I have a pretty good view of everything.
Do you think you could play us a little bit of something to give us an idea of what the bassoon sounds like?
Sure, this one might be a little bit familiar.
All right. That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
That sounds so cool. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks for having me.
That was awesome. Thank you, Josh. It really is amazing how connected music and science are. And with me now is Stuart Stevenson, who is the principal trumpet player with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. Stuart is going to help us answer our first quiz question, which was, which instrument shares its name with a part of the ear? Stuart, what's the correct answer?
The correct answer is the timpani, which is named for the tympanic membrane, also known as the eardrum.
Very nice.
And the timpani usually consists of at least two drums, sometimes as many as 6 or 7, and often referred to as a kettle drum.
Very cool. And it looks like 41% of you picked timpani, so 41% of you got it right. And because the timpani are so big and they are a percussion instrument, does that mean they're the loudest in an orchestra?
Well, they are big and they are definitely loud, but they're not the loudest.
Okay.
I think the loudest are the trumpet and the trombone. And one cool thing you can do with a really loud instrument like that is demonstrate sound waves.
Okay. Well, let's do that. We have a little experiment. We have some plastic wrap sealed over a bowl, and we have some cereal on top, and watch what happens when Stuart plays notes. Very nice. They're jumping all over the place. That was great. Okay, so sound waves or the vibrations moving through the air caused it to move, right?
Exactly, and that actually explains how Beethoven, who famously became deaf later in life, could still compose music. He even went so far as to cut the legs off of his piano and put it on the ground so that when he played, he could feel the vibrations through the wood floor.
Wow, that is really, really cool. All right, we have a question from Michael in Beaverbrook Elementary in Griffin, Georgia. Michael wants to know, how can a trumpet make different sounds even though it's only one instrument?
That's a great question. One of the ways we can do that is by using tightening our lips and our mouth muscles, but unlike a lot of other instruments, we don't just blow through the instrument. We have to make a buzz to actually create the sound.
Wow, that's awesome.
And the way that works is we buzz our lips, and that creates the sound that travels through the trumpet, and it sounds like this.
Very nice. Yeah, it does sound completely different. And we saw earlier that the reed on a bassoon can be removed. Can you remove a trumpet's mouthpiece as well?
We can. We don't like to because it doesn't sound very good.
It sounds like a duck call to me. Yeah, it definitely sounds much better the other way. And is there any way you can control the volume or the loudness of a trumpet?
Absolutely. One of the ways we can do that is by pushing air either harder or a little bit softer, or the other way, which is by using a mute. And I have a couple here for you to demonstrate. This one is sort of made out of like a balsa wood and cardboard, basically.
Okay.
And it has a little bit softer sound. And the other one I have here is called a harmony mute, and this is used on a lot of jazzy pieces, and it has something a little interesting on the end here.
that's awesome. That's where that womp, womp, womp sound comes from
Exactly.
in cartoons. And is that just like the plunger that I see is used sometimes in jazz music?
It's pretty similar. We put our hand over the bell, and with a plunger, we hold in our hand, but it
Okay.
does the same thing.
Okay, very nice. Thank you for that demonstration. That was really cool. And it looks like we have a question from the audience. Carlin, Chesney, and Clan from Ludowici, Georgia want to know, where is the coolest place you've ever played?
Let's see. Actually, I don't think there's just one cool place. I think there's two cool places that I've played. The first was Carnegie Hall in New York City, which is world-renowned. It's a fantastic place to play. And the second would be actually on top of a mountain in Colorado. We're up at about 11 or 12,000 feet. So breathing was a little bit interesting, a little more
Right.
difficult, but it was just gorgeous because there was mountains all around me.
Oh, that had to be beautiful. I hope you got a good picture.
I did.
Good, good. And we have some more questions rolling in right here from the iPad. So a question from Hasty Elementary, Fine Arts Academy, a second grader, wants to know, how do you become a member of the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra?
Well, it's actually a little bit of a long process. To begin with, we send a resume in after we find out there's an opening. You can't actually apply unless there's an opening.
Okay.
So you have to wait for that to happen. And then once you send your resume in, they either accept you or they reject you. And then once you're accepted, you come and usually play 3 to 4 rounds. There's a preliminary round where you play a bunch of excerpts that they've given you ahead of time, a semifinal round once you've made that initial cut, and a final, and sometimes a super finals.
Oh, wow. Super finals.
Super finals, and that's in front of the music director and then a whole bunch of the members of the orchestra.
Oh, so there's an entire round, though. They don't even hear you play, and you could get cut just from your resume.
Yep.
That's really interesting. All right, the next question from St. Martin's Episcopal School in Atlanta, Georgia. They want to know, how many years have you played your instrument?
Wow, I think I've played about 18 years now, 18, 19 years. I started when I was around 10 years old in the 5th grade.
Okay.
And I've been just steadily getting better.
Oh, we might have some 5th graders watching right now. So if you want to start, you could be like this one day. And one more question coming in from Twitter. Miss Price's 1st grade class from Toccoa, Georgia wants to know, what kind of music do you usually play?
Well, here at the Symphony, we usually play classical music, but we also do a lot of pop shows. We play movie concerts, young children's concerts. So it's a wide variety of music from the 1700s up till music that was written actually this year.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
very nice. Thank you so much. It looks like it's time for our next quiz question, so have your devices ready. All right, here it comes. Quiz question number 2. The strings on a stringed instrument were historically made of blank wrapped in wire. The strings on a stringed instrument were historically made of what wrapped in wire? Is it number 1, hay, number 2, sheep intestine, number 3, deer antler, or number 4, horsehair? Now listen to the question real carefully. Is it 1, hay,
Either hay or deer.
2, sheep intestine, 3, deer antler, or 4, horsehair? Remember, just text 1, 2, 3, or 4 to 201-561-7140 or submit your answers online at gpb.org/symphony. And we've heard musicians talk about the science of sound, but what all goes into putting on a concert? Let's check back in with Josh for a behind-the-scenes look.
Next up, we're going to be talking to the person who's in charge of all of these cool percussion instruments.
Hi, I'm Joe Petrosic, and I'm the principal percussionist with the Atlanta Symphony. So a principal percussionist has 2 major jobs. The first one is I play what are the most difficult or exposed parts. So this concert we're playing right now, I play the prominent snare drum part on John Williams' Imperial March from Star Wars. The other big category is sort of an administrative one. I have to meet with the library staff and management well in advance of the concerts and figure out how many players we need for each piece, hire those players if we need extra players, and assign the parts, which means I tell the percussionists what to play and when.
Now we're going to check out the library where all the music is held.
Librarians at orchestras are responsible for preparing the music that the orchestra plays. We're responsible for putting in all of the markings that the orchestra members need to play their instruments properly, or for string players telling their arms which direction to go. So how that process normally works is we plan concerts about a year or 2 in advance. Once a concert is planned, which means the conductor tells us what they would like to see on their concert, and we go, okay, we'll make that happen for you. We pull out the music, putting in the markings that the musicians need to play their instruments properly. We tell them sometimes how loud to play, how soft to play. We tell them how to articulate, meaning the style in which they play. And normally that'll come from the conductor. Once we finish all that, we take each piece of music and we make sure that each person has the proper music, so whatever instrument that they are playing, we put it in their folder and then they come and pick it up.
Hey everyone, I'm here with Steven, who is a conductor at Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, and I just wanted to ask you a few questions. What does it mean to be a conductor? What's your role here at the orchestra?
As a conductor, I'm the leader of the orchestra, and so I'm basically in charge of overseeing the whole concert. And so I pick some of the pieces, and I run the rehearsal, and then I help to direct the performance.
And by directing, so that's basically communicating what you want from the orchestra. So what are some ways you do that? Obviously, kind of the hand motions, but is there anything else you do, and can you share that with us?
Sure. Well, so in the piece Finlandia by Sibelius, it starts with the brass. And so the French horns are sitting all the way over there, and the trombones are sitting all the way over there, and the basses play at the beginning too. So they're all over the stage, and we have to start at the same time. So the very first thing that I do is imagine the sound and then breathe for everybody so we can all begin together.
So you have kind of an overlay of everything that's going on. So do you have like music in front of you, and are you seeing everyone's parts, or is it just kind of like a special conductor's music laid out in front of you?
So conductors have what's called a score, and we have everybody's part listed on the page. At the top of the page is the flute part, and at the very bottom of the page is the bass part, and everything in between that. Now, when the players are only looking at their part, but the conductor looks at everybody's part and has to decide how it all fits together. So it's true that as a conductor you have to be able to read all of the different instrumental parts, and when you go to school for conducting, that's one of the first things you have to learn.
What are some things you do to prepare for a performance, or maybe for the next couple of weeks of performances?
So at the very beginning, we have to have an artistic plan for what we're looking to do. And when we play concerts for young people, I'm collaborating first of all with the education department to decide what music are we going to play for the students. The librarian then gives all of the materials out to each of the musicians so that we can each at home, at our studios, practice our parts, and I study my score so that when we come in for a rehearsal, everybody knows the music and we simply have to coordinate it and rehearse the timing together.
So what is your favorite thing about being a conductor?
There are two things. The music itself, I've always felt so connected to this music, and I couldn't live without it. And also there's such a joy in working with musicians. I have always loved spending time with great musicians, and to be with them on a daily basis is amazing, inspiring, and I couldn't imagine not doing it.
In some concerts, there could be more than 20 different instruments in the symphony, but a consistent fan favorite, and my favorite, is the violin. And joining us now is Cece Yuqing Zhang, a violinist with the Atlanta Symphony. Welcome, Cece.
Hi.
We're so glad to have you here.
Glad to be here, too.
Awesome. So, Cece, we just learned about what a conductor does, and Scarlett from Mrs. Rosin's class in Conham Woods Elementary wants to know, is it hard to read music and watch the conductor at the same time? That's a good question.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good question. Sometimes it actually can be challenging because if you're sitting in the back of the section, then you're actually really far away from the conductor, so you constantly have to look up and down. But I would say if you actually do practice music before, and then you'll be able to do it. And then you would know when to look up at the conductor. You just look up when it's complicated, and then you focus on the music for the majority of your time.
That's amazing. I've never actually even thought about that as an audience member. I just enjoy the music. It's like magic. And okay, you're the perfect person to answer our second quiz question. The strings on a stringed instrument were historically made of blank wrapped in wire. Cece, what's the correct answer?
That would be sheep's intestines.
Uh-oh, surprise.
Yeah, so it was the sheep intestines are used a lot back in the days, but in the modern days, metal is actually the most commonly used material for strings.
All sorts of metal, like aluminum, silver, even gold sometimes.
Even, the E string, the highest string of the violin, sometimes is made of gold.
Very
to
cool.
make it more ringing and more bright.
Oh, fancy. And I see that most of you guys picked horsehair, and I totally understand that because that's what I would have chosen. It's a bit of a trick question because I do understand that horsehair is used for a different part of the instrument.
That's correct. Horsehair is used in the bow, and it's made of 150 to 200 horse hairs. But the horsehair actually doesn't make a sound if you just put on a string. When you change it to new bow hair, you would put rosin on this part of the bow, and this would add the grip to the strings and make sound.
Oh, very cool. So there basically wouldn't be any music without rosin on a violin.
You can say that.
Okay. And there are a lot of different ways you can produce music with a violin. Can you demonstrate some of the techniques you use?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are left-hand techniques and there are also right-hand techniques. For the left-hand technique, there's one called vibrato. When you put the fingers on the string and then you slightly move your fingertips or your wrist or your arms, and it will sound like this. Something like that. And also for right-hand techniques, there are spiccatos, which is you bounce the bow lightly, fast on the string. Just like what you heard earlier in the Imperial March. And there's also pizzicatos, when you use your finger to pluck the strings. And there's also called staccato, which you do this. Yeah, so these are some basic techniques of the violin.
Oh, that was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
The last technique was my very favorite.
Thank you.
And you know when to use these techniques because of the articulations the librarians make, right?
Yeah, partially. Usually the librarian will put the bowings in the parts when the music director, the conductor, and the concertmaster tell them what they want. And most of the time, the composer will put in the articulation or bowings of the piece that they want.
Very cool. It takes so many different pieces to put it all
Right.
together. And I know Stuart talked about the mutes that trumpets use. Does a violin have anything similar? Does it have a mute as well?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I have one right here. It's a violin-shaped mute. I use it in orchestra settings to have a more softer and covered tone. And I also have other ones. This gigantic one over here, you put it over the bridge. I use it in hotel rooms so I can practice quietly at night. And the third one, but not the least one, I got this one over Thanksgiving, and it's a very cute mouse-shaped little mute.
Oh, that's absolutely adorable.
Yeah, so I can keep myself entertained.
That's awesome. It's a little mouse sitting on top of her violin. I never knew strings had mute, so that's really cool. And you can definitely hear a difference with it. And we received a ton of questions about the violin, so let's answer a couple of them. Okay, from Fulton Academy of Science and Technology, Samantha wants to know, does it hurt your neck when you play the violin?
Huh. Actually, it doesn't, but sometimes if you play for a long period of time, it could definitely cause some kind of back pain and neck pain, but not very bad.
Okay. Yeah. And this last one says, from Miss Curry's class at Henderson Hill Elementary in DeKalb County, has anybody's instrument ever broken while they were playing it? And what do you do if something like that happens during a song?
Oh, interesting. So the only thing that I can think of that breaks during a concert would be the E string usually, because it's the thinnest string of all. And usually when that happens, if you're sitting the concertmaster, the guy or the lady who's sitting next to him, the associate concertmaster, would hand over his or her violin to the concertmaster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Mim, a 4th grade student in Miss Guest's class at 405 Academy at 5th Avenue, asked, do you have jobs other than being a musician with the ASO?
That's a good question because this is my lifelong committed job. I have other hobbies outside of the symphony, but
You're a professional. This is for real.
I would say so.
Yes, absolutely. She's working at the highest level, so this is her full-time job. And we've heard how musicians prepare for a concert performance, but now it's time to see how a teacher and her students prepare to attend one. We spoke with Brianne Turgeon, a music leader at Springdale Park Elementary in Atlanta, to hear how they connect with the symphony.
Preparing my students for the symphony concerts is one of my favorite times of the year. So when a violinist is playing, their elbow moves and also their wrist. But if their shoulder is moving around a whole lot, then it's not good technique. I take every single angle. If you are studying a science concept, you can study science through music. If you're studying social studies, if you're studying language arts, poetry is built into lyrics. You can teach children how to track left to right if you're reading music or reading lyrics. Music is connected to math through notation. If you look at a musical staff, it is like a graph. The pitch and the duration is graphing, essentially. Music notes are fractions, but also humans can learn about each other through music. So we learn about different cultures, different eras in history through music, and it's the big connector. Everything about preparing for the symphony, the students learn to sing, they learn to conduct, they learn where the orchestra members sit and why, and it becomes a way for us to be able to connect to the Atlanta community as well, because we are going out into one of the best organizations that North America has to offer with the Atlanta Symphony. My favorite part of watching the symphony is actually watching my students watch the symphony. When I see their faces light up and I hear students who say, oh, this is when this is happening, and they get so excited, or they sit and they conduct from their seats and they breathe with the orchestra, and all of the physical experiences and the emotional experiences that the kids have. Watching them enjoy my friends on the stage is the greatest part.
I'm really looking forward to being looking at the conductor, how he moves, for then when I grow up I could do the same thing.
I'm looking forward to meeting everyone and seeing what are the procedures to learning a song.
My favorite instrument is a violin too.
Because I love the strings and they sound pretty.
I'm looking forward to Finlandia because I've heard it a lot in music class and I want to actually hear a symphony play it.
I'm also looking forward to that because I know how to play it on the flute.
Oh, what a fun field trip. And joining us again is Tiffany. So Tiffany, you do manage concerts for young people, and we have a lot of viewers tuning in from outside of the Atlanta area. So what are some ways they can still interact with the symphony?
Well, we perform at various venues throughout the year, including we go to University of Georgia, we are at Madison, and we are also at Savannah, and we're at Kennesaw State University.
Oh, very nice.
So we encourage you can catch us there. Also, you can listen to us on GPB Radio, the Delta Classical Series, as well as heading to ASO.org to download our free study guides that are associated with all of our Concerts for Young People programs.
Very nice.
And that we do hope that if you are visiting Atlanta, that you come and visit us here at Atlanta Symphony Hall, because there's nothing like seeing a live concert, and check us out on all of our social networks.
Absolutely. And of course, you can interact with ASO right now by sending us your questions and participating in this final quiz question. All right, here's quiz question number 3. Which instrument is not a member of the percussion family? Is it number 1, handbell, 2, piano, 3, cymbals, or 4, pipe organ? Number 1, handbell, 2, piano, 3, cymbals, or 4, pipe organ. Remember, this is which one is not a member of the percussion family. And just remember to submit your answers on gpb.org/symphony or by texting 1, 2, 3, or 4 to 201-561-7140. And while you choose your answer, let's take a look at Finlandia, one of the most popular pieces performed during the concerts for young people. Tiffany, can you give us some background or context on Finlandia and what it means?
Okay, definitely. Well, Jean Sibelius was born in Finland, and he created Finlandia as a protest song against the Russian Empire.
Wow.
In the 1800s, the Russian Empire forced Finnish citizens to join the Russian army and censored their press. So what happened is that in 1890, they decided to fight back, and Sibelius created that piece as a way to raise money to protest against their censorship of their press. And today is considered Finland's second national anthem.
Very nice. All right, well, we've heard about it. Now let's listen to it. Here it is. That was absolutely beautiful. What a truly powerful piece. I feel like I could really envision the struggle between Finland and Russia. And because Finlandia was part of the Concert for Young People series, let's hear what young people had to say. Here are some of their reactions.
I like the violin because last year I used to play the violin, and watching the violinists play, I thought it was really cool because they make me seem that I could do what they can do when they did when I get older.
My favorite music was the Star Wars because I really love Star Wars. It has a meaning just like books, to find the message in the story, like you can do anything.
My favorite part about this concert was the violin. I like the sound of it and how it was all in sync.
My favorite part was the strings. I just like how it flowed and everything.
I would definitely have to agree. I really love the strings in that piece. And for our viewers, you can tell us your favorite part of today's performances by using #SymphonyLive on Twitter or by leaving a comment in the chat box on gpb.org/symphony. All right, you guys, back with us now are Cece and Stuart. And Cece, you can help us answer our final quiz question, which was, which instrument is not a member of the percussion family? Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Handbell, piano, cymbal, pipe organ. I would say the pipe organ.
Correct, that is correct. Oof. And the pipe organ does not have strings, and it doesn't have anything hitting it. So tell us why the pipe organ is not a member of the percussion family.
Actually, my first guess would be the piano, because piano is actually kind of a percussive instrument because it has the strings and then has the
the piano
hammers.
is a percussive instrument.
Yeah, right.
It is a tricky question because it does have strings, but it has something hitting it, so it is a percussive instrument. And now we have some more questions coming in from our audience, so let's answer one of those. Stuart, this one is for you. Jaya from River Trail Middle in Johns Creek, Georgia says, what are some tips you can give young musicians to help them be successful in music/life?
That's a great question. I think the best advice is don't be afraid to mess up. There's nothing wrong with it, and especially for trumpet players. If we mess up, everybody hears it. Play slowly, figure out what you want to sound like, and that's about it. Just don't be afraid to explore your options, and don't be afraid to mess up.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much for lending us your expertise and for answering all these questions. Our last piece is from ASO's Heroes of the Orchestra concert, and it's Lift Every Voice. Sing and Lift Every Voice was originally written as a poem by James Weldon Johnson and then set to music by his brother John. The song was first performed in 1900 by 500 school children for Abraham Lincoln's birthday. Soon after, it was adopted by the NAACP as its official song, and it's commonly referred to as the Black National Anthem. Lift Every Voice and Sing is widely performed today, including a recent performance by Beyonce. As you listen to the song, pay close attention to the lyrics and hear how the instruments complement the powerful words. Let's take a listen.
Till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn hath died. Yet with a steady beat hath not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered, out of the gloomy past, till now we stand at last where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. Where the white gleam of our bright star is cast.
What a beautiful and powerful note to end on. And if you look closely, you could see Cece in the footage right there. I saw you pointing yourself out. It looks like that's all the time we have for today, but before we say goodbye, is there any last few bits of advice you'd like to give the students watching?
No, just have fun when you're playing. That's the biggest thing you can do.
And smile.
Smile.
Smile and have fun, absolutely. It is truly a passion, and thank you guys so much for coming in. We'll continue answering your questions on the chat box and on Twitter, so keep those coming. And we'd like to thank our crew and all of our guests from the Atlanta Symphony for today's production. And we'd like to thank you, the students, for being such active participants in the show. If you'd like to hear more from the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, go to gpb.org/symphony, where you can experience performances in a 360 view and access teacher resources. What's coming up next for you guys?
For us, we have the Messiah tonight.
Oh, you have something tonight?
Yeah, we have a
that's
concert
awesome.
right on the stage tonight.
On this stage tonight, they have a concert. So how soon do you have to prepare for that?
What do you mean, how soon?
When are you going to start gearing up to perform?
We've been rehearsing all week, and yeah.
Okay,
and
so you're ready to go right now?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Always
I'm
ready to
sitting
go.
right in front of Stuart, actually.
That's why they're pros. Well, good luck to both of you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, thank you guys for tuning in.